Ladies and gentlemen, we are so close to the NBA draft, but afterwards, we are going to be having the NBA offseason in general, so I'm very excited to be talking about this. So let's get right into the Eastern Conference and what every team should do this offseason. All right, so just to clarify, today we're going to be doing just simple little, brief breakdowns on what I think each team should do. So let's first start with the Atlantic division in the Eastern Conference, where we have the Boston Celtics, Brooklyn Nets, New York Knicks, Philadelphia 76ers, and Toronto Raptors. So let's get started. First up, I think the Boston Celtics definitely should try to trade either Porzingis and or Jrue Holiday. The Celtics are currently in the second apron right now, so they don't have a lot of flexibility. Jason Tatum's most likely going to be out all of next year. I'm pretty sure they might have already ruled that out, but I'm not 100% sure. But they need to create some flexibility to make moves. I think personally, Jrue Holiday would be the player that you're going to be able to get the best, assets from. I think they need to be definitely looking into that, especially with the draft coming up. They definitely should make a move to try to move on from Jrue Holiday, and a lot of other teams could definitely use him for a championship piece. Next up, we have the Brooklyn Nets, where I really do think they should trade Cam Johnson while his value is still somewhat high. I think Cam Johnson is a great player, and I think you can definitely get some draft capital. We've seen rumors that the Nets are trying to move forward into the draft, especially since they have 4 first-round picks. What if you package some of those first-round picks plus Cam Johnson? You could definitely get back into the lottery and get a really good draft pick for that kind of package. So that's what I think the Brooklyn Nets need to do. Next up, we have the New York Knicks. I think the Knicks either need to trade OG Anunoby or Josh Hart to get some depth. The Knicks just recently fired Tom Thibodeau, who really was not really using the depth on the Knicks. They really didn't have much depth to begin with, but now I think you should trade one of those guys, clear up some of that salary and kind of split it up into a couple players. Maybe you have to, trade a couple of your players on the Knicks, but I do think they need to try to trade one of those guys and try to get more depth pieces that will help win now, because I think this team, even without like an OG Anunoby or Josh Hart, can still get the job done. Next up, we have the Philadelphia 76ers, where I think they should look to either trade away Paul George and or Joel Embiid. I know Paul George is a name that's been thrown out for a lot of rumors lately about him being packaged with the number 3 pick, but why not consider trading Joel Embiid? Maybe not with the 3 pick, with the 3rd pick in the draft, but maybe look to see what teams would offer for Joel Embiid. I think it's time to move on from him. I think he's just becoming a liability, and honestly, it's just time. And then finally, the last team in the Atlantic Division, the Toronto Raptors. I think they need to get themselves a true point guard. They have Emmanuel Quickley, but he's had some injury concerns. And is he going to be that point guard that you want to build with for the future? They have the number 9 pick in this draft. I think there could be a very solid point guard left when they are picking. Kasparas Jokic is going to be there, the guard from Illinois. Jeremiah Fears could potentially fall. If one of those players are on the board, I think they should go after them. Or you could go into free agency and sign a point guard like Trey Jones, who could really fill in a good role, especially with DeJounte Murray's injury. But anyways, that is the Atlantic Division. Let's move on to the Central Division. All right, we are on to the Central Division now, where first off, let's talk about the Chicago Bulls. I think the Bulls definitely need to move on from Nikola Vucevic and keep moving towards a younger, building through the draft type of team. Arturas Karnisovas just got an extension to be their GM for the foreseeable future, so they really need to continue to build through the draft, trade players like Vucevic, trade players like Kobe White, get some draft capital and build through the draft, and let players like Modest Buzelis and Josh Giddey continue to develop. That's what I think the Bulls need to do. Next up, we have the Milwaukee Bucks. I think they honestly should trade Giannis unless he wants to stay in Milwaukee. And the reason being, Giannis is a player that realistically, I don't think the Bucks are going to be able to do much to be able to help Giannis win another championship. I just feel like they haven't made very smart moves as of late, especially when they traded for Kuzma. And right now, you could probably get a haul for Giannis Antetokounmpo. So might as well just go out and see the market for him and just see what you can get for Giannis. So that's the Milwaukee Bucks. Now we have the Cleveland Cavaliers, where I think they should definitely try to trade Jarrett Allen and let Evan Mobley be the starting 5. Stop trying to have that double big lineup. It's not working. They always fold in the playoffs when those two are together, and I think it's just hindering Evan Mobley's development overall. Maybe they could try to use Evan Mobley and or Darius Garland to try to convince the Milwaukee Bucks to try and get a Giannis, while also that would help them to get out of some salary cap issues, but they also have some other moves to make, so the Cavs are going to be an interesting team this offseason. Next up, we have the Indiana Pacers, a team that could be NBA champions. I'm doing this podcast on Friday, which is, we know that there's going to be a Game 7 between the Thunder and Pacers, but I do think the Pacers still need to truly find a true number 1 option. I know Tyrese Halliburton has come in clutch at the end of games a lot of times. Siakam's been pretty good. Nembhard stepping up big time, same with Nesmith. But I do think they need to find that true number 1 scorer that will just come out every night and just be that reliable bucket getter. I feel like Siakam's one of those guys, but you can't really rely on him every night. And same with Halliburton, as he definitely, struggles to take a certain amount of shots a game. So try to find that true number 1 if you're Indiana, and that could be a player like Kevin Durant. I don't think they would try to get into those sweepstakes, but who knows. Next up, we have the final team in the Central Division, where we have the Detroit Pistons, a very surprise last year making the playoffs, but I do think they should trade for another star caliber type of player. Now, this could be like an up-and-coming star like Kobe White from the Chicago Bulls or Jonathan Kuminga if they want to do a sign-and-trade with the Warriors. I think they should try to find another player that can get some scoring relief off of Cade Cunningham and just find that like wing/guard that's going to be able to play well and get some relief off of Cunningham, especially with a lot of question marks with Jaden Ivey. But anyways, that's going to be the end of the Central Division. Let's move on to the Southeast Division. So for the Southeast Division, we have the Hawks, Hornets, Heat, Magic, and Wizards. So let's get started. I think the Atlanta Hawks need to definitely decide on Trae Young or not. There's rumors that he could be up for a big extension, up to I think $226 million. So the Hawks definitely need to decide, do we want to keep Trae Young? Or if not, try to trade him maybe even this offseason, because you're going to be able to get a really good package for him, and then you could continue to build with a young core of players like Zachary Ricochet, Dyson Daniels, and maybe like a Onyeka Okongwu, and their upcoming draft pick at pick 13, I believe. So I think the Hawks definitely need to make a decision on Trae Young and make it soon. Next up, we have the the Charlotte Hornets, where I think they need to trade either Mark Williams and or LaMelo Ball. Those two players I feel like are players that are kind of just getting out of the picture of what the Hornets are trying to do. They have the number 4 pick. They might trade down. I don't think they will, but I think they're going to get a solid player at 4. But it's time to move on from either one of them. Mark Williams, you traded at the trade deadline. That trade got vetoed because of injury concerns with Mark Williams. But I think you could definitely explore that again this offseason. And then with LaMelo Ball, I don't know if you could really rely on him to be your guy on that team. So I think you could also get a pretty solid package for him. So might as well at least shop him and see what you could get for him. Next up, we have the Miami Heat. And I think the one big thing they need to do is do not trade Khalil Ware in a package for Kevin Durant. Keep him out of those packages. The Heat need to hold on to him. He is going to be a special player in this league. I truly believe that. And for Kevin Durant, I don't think that's worth it. So Miami, do not trade Khalil Ware. Next up, we have the Orlando Magic, who just made a big trade for Desmond Bane for they gave up multiple first-round picks and Cole Anthony and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. But this offseason, they need to sign some true shooters in free agency. They need to get some guys that could come off the bench, be real good shooters. The Cavs are reportedly looking to potentially trade Sam Merrill. Maybe the Magic should look to go get him. And there's some other options, but I think Sam Merrill could be a very solid player for them. Next up, we have the Washington Wizards, the last team in the Southeast Division in the Eastern Conference. And I think they need to trade Jordan Poole, get him while his value is still high. I think it's time to move on from him and draft a player like Jeremiah Fears, where he can kind of take over the offense and be the main initiator and the main ball handler, and let Jeremiah Fears or whoever they draft develop really well. There's also been talks about them potentially trying to trade up to pick number 2, but overall, I think the big focus is the Wizards should definitely try to trade Jordan Poole. But anyways, that's going to be the end of the Eastern Conference in general. Let me know what you guys think, and if there's a certain move you disagree with or a certain move you agree with, let me know down below, and let's get right into the Western Conference. Okay, so now we have the Western Conference. We're in the second half of, what moves NBA teams should make. So let's start with the Northwest Division, where we have the Nuggets, Timberwolves, Thunder, Trailblazers, and Jazz. So first up, let's talk about the Nuggets. I think at all costs, they need to trade Michael Porter Jr., get off of that contract. They need to move on from him, maybe try to go get a player like Trey Murphy. There's been, rumors that could be a thing, but definitely try to get Michael Porter Jr. off of the team and get a backup point guard and center. Steven Adams, unfortunately, was re-signed by the Rockets. I really wish the Nuggets could have gone out and tried to get him, but unfortunately, that's not going to happen. But there are some solid players that they could still go after. But overall, the Nuggets definitely need to move on from Michael Porter Jr. and start a new core with Jokic and Murray and Christian Brown. Those should definitely be the nucleus of that core. Next up, we have the Minnesota Timberwolves, where I think they need to trade Rudy Gobert and move forward with Naz Reid as your starting center. Rudy Gobert is a great defensive big man. He's a player that's really good on the pick and roll. Some would debate that he sets illegal screens. I would think so. But in my opinion, you got to re-sign Naz Reid and get rid of Rudy Gobert if you can. Try to move on from him. You probably could get something solid for Rudy Gobert as well. So definitely try to explore those trade options. Next up, we have the Oklahoma City Thunder, where I think they should trade some of their picks, the plethora of picks they already have, and players to make a big splash in a trade. I think you could try to go after a player like Lauri Markkanen or even a Jarrett Allen, like a true center on your team, to be able to really go and just continue to build forward with this team. You have plenty of draft capital and you have plenty of young players. Even if you traded some of them away, you'd still be plenty good because you're not going to have to get rid of players like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or Jalen Williams. You might have to get rid of Chet, but I think that might be worth it if you could get a player like Lauri Markkanen, in my opinion. Next up, we have the Portland Trailblazers. And this is an interesting team. I think they should definitely be trying to get into the playoffs next year. They need to definitely trade DeAndre Ayton, though, and let Klingon be that main big man. I know they have Robert Williams, who I think they should also look to trade. But in my opinion, trade DeAndre Ayton, get whatever you can for him, get off of his contract, and let Donovan Klingon be the main center on this team. Next up, we have, and the final team in the Northwest Division, we have the Utah Jazz, and I think they need to definitely be shopping players like Lauri Markkanen and John Collins and building through the draft continuously. They've been drafting pretty well. I know Cody Williams wasn't the best draft pick, but that doesn't mean he's still going to be a bust. He could definitely have a great year too. The Jazz just need to keep continuing to build through the draft. I think they've already got a solid core going, and now with pick number 5, they're going to be able to build with another solid player. So just keep building through the draft. It might be a slow process, but it's worth it at the end. I really do believe that. And that is going to be the end of the Northwest Division, so let's get on to the Pacific Division. So now we are on the Pacific Division, basically the California teams, and then the Suns, where we have the Warriors, Lakers, Clippers, Suns, and Kings. So first up, let's talk about the Warriors. I think they need to try to get a good return in a sign and trade for Kuminga. It seems that Kuminga's relationship with the Warriors, and specifically Steve Kerr, is all but broken. So it's time to move on from him. And you could get a solid package like Kobe White. I personally, as a Bulls fan, do not want to just get rid of Kobe White just for Kuminga. But who knows? I think the Warriors could definitely get a solid package back for Kuminga via sign and trade, and I think they should try to definitely look into that. Next up, we have the Los Angeles Lakers, now the richest owners in the NBA right now. They definitely need to trade for a big man that could help out Luka with as a lob threat, and some of these players that could be notable are Nick Claxton and Walker Kessler. You probably are going to have to get rid of either Rui Hachimura or Austin Reeves, most likely Hachimura and probably Dalton Knecht. But I think that's worth it if you could get a big man that could really help protect and be a lob threat for players like Luka and LeBron. Next up, we have the Los Angeles Clippers. And I think you just need to get James Harden back on this team, get him under contract, make him happy. Don't have that situation like Philly did with James Harden. Get James Harden on the contract, and then try to go out and trade for a player like Drew Holiday. Go get a defensive guy that can really help, slow down the defensive inabilities, I guess, of James Harden and be able to disguise James Harden's lack of defense with Drew Holiday's elite defensive abilities. Next up, we have the Phoenix Suns, where I think they need to trade away KD and not be so stubborn with a return. We've seen reports that they've actually asked teams like the Spurs for like either the number 2 pick and or Stephon Castle. That's just way too much, especially if you really want to move on from him. You're going to have to take a little bit worse of a package because the other teams have the leverage in this deal. The Suns just need to stop being stubborn and move on from him and free up some salary cap space. And finally, in the Pacific Division, we have the Sacramento Kings, where I do think they need to trade for a true point guard like Darius Garland or even Trae Young if he becomes available, and also move on from DeMar DeRozan. DeMar DeRozan slows down the pace whenever he's on a different team. It's just time to move on from him. Zach and DeMar don't work well. If you want to build a solid team in the future, you got to make a move like getting an actual point guard on your team. Zach LaVine and Malik Monk are not going to get it done. But anyways, that's going to be the end of the Pacific Division. Let's now move on to the Southwest Division, the final division of this video. And with the final division, we have the Southwest Division, where we have the Mavericks, Rockets, Grizzlies, Pelicans, and Spurs. Some teams that, honestly, all 5 of these teams could be very interesting teams going into this offseason. But let's first start with the Mavericks, where I do think they need to find a true point guard replacement for Kyrie Irving, especially since Kyrie Irving's going to be injured at least probably half of the season. You could go out and trade for a player like Lonzo Ball. You probably won't have to get rid of a lot for him, and he's on a pretty favorable contract, only making $10 million a year. Or you can go out and pay this guy a little more, but Trey Jones could definitely be a great replacement as well if they can make that financial part work. Next up, we have the Houston Rockets, where I think they need to trade Jalen Green for a true number 1 option on their team, like Kevin Durant. I know the Suns don't want Jalen Green in a package, so if they wanted to move on from him in that kind of trade for Kevin Durant, they would have to find a third team, which there are reportedly rumors that teams like the Bulls and I think the Nets are also interested in bringing in Jalen Green, so maybe they could get that to work. But the Rockets definitely need to find a true number 1, a player that can definitely get this core going, because this Rockets team's close, but they just need that guy to be able to be that main scorer for this team. Next up, we have the Memphis Grizzlies, where I think they need to trade Ja Morant and rebuild with the return already obtained from the Desmond Bane package. They already got a haul for Desmond Bane. I know they didn't get like any crazy good young players. I know Cole Anthony is a player that kind of fell out of the rotation. He could be solid for you, but you're realistically probably not going to use him for the future. I think you could trade Ja Morant, still get a really good package for him, and just do it before he has to get an extension and you pay him something that may be untradeable in the future. Try to move on from him now and rebuild with all the picks that you could obtain and become maybe the next Thunder. Next up, we have the New Orleans Pelicans, where I think the Pelicans just need to pick a direction and go with it, whether that's rebuilding or contending. You have a team that probably could contend if they're healthy, but you also, have to bet on them being healthy, which is something that's very hard to determine. Zion Williamson, one of their better players when healthy, is unreliable because he hasn't proven to be healthy. Yes, he had a pretty solid season where he played a decent amount of games, but is that something you could truly rely on? I'm not 100% sure. So the Pelicans just need to commit to something and just figure out what they can do, because I personally think they should rebuild, but who knows what the Pelicans are going to do with Joe Dumars now under their management and everything. So we'll see what they can do. There's been rumors that they could be trading up to try to get Ace Bailey. Who knows if that'll work, but we'll just have to see what the Pelicans are going to do this offseason. And then finally, we have the San Antonio Spurs, where I think The big thing for them is just don't trade all your future assets such as picks and players for a star player like Giannis. It would be a dumb mistake to just trade all of your picks and all of your future players just for one player. And I know Giannis is a superstar. He is an unbelievable player, top 5 player in the NBA by far. But it would be dumb because you don't know if Wemby's going to be able to stay healthy all year, which he hasn't proven yet. And Giannis and Wemby would be an unbelievable duo. But you're going to have to get rid of a pretty big haul. And I think they should just stick, especially with the number 2 pick, and draft Dylan Harper and just continue to build forward with this young core that's already proven to be very promising. But anyways, that's going to be the end of podcast number 59 of Sports Talk with JWock. Go down in the link below, or go down in the description below, and you can check out all my social media platforms so you can check out recent news or things that are just going around the league. And I'm going to try to start doing little video updates on Instagram about like potential trades or signings that are like notable and something to be worth talking about instead of doing a whole episode on that. So if you want to check that out, check it down on Instagram specifically. Facebook, I'm still trying to figure out a little bit, so just stay patient with me on that. But anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning into podcast number 59 of Sports Talk with JWock. I appreciate all of you for tuning into this episode, and the draft is coming up soon. The offseason is coming up soon. We're going to be having a lot of those episodes, and NFL episodes are going to be coming up soon, so stay tuned for that. But anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode. I hope you all have an amazing week. God bless.